Have you ever looked back at a job you stayed in for far too long, or a relationship you outgrew and thought, why didn't I leave earlier? A part of me knew I should have. I just didn't listen to myself. In this season of life, ignoring that quiet inner knowing doesn't just cost you time, it costs your energy, your health, and your sense of self. Welcome to Rooted Insights, a podcast for women in their second season of life who've spent years caring for everyone else kids, partners, work, households, holding it all together while quietly putting your own needs on the back burner. If you now find yourself wondering, what's next for me? What do I really want for my life now? And how do I start prioritizing myself without dropping everything else? You are in exactly the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelley, a health and well-being specialist and mind-body expert, and here we blend grounded, science-informed practices into everyday life so we can better support our hardworking nervous systems, emotions, and authentic selves in this powerful mid-season of life. In an earlier episode, we talked about your inner power trio, intuition, intention, and imagination, as quiet, deeply personal tools that help you co-create your next chapter from the inside out. Today, we're starting a 3-part series to go deeper into each one, beginning with intuition, what it actually is, the science behind it, and how to work with it daily in this mid-season of your life. So if you've ever said, I knew it, I just didn't listen to myself, this one is especially for you. So take a slow breath in and a slightly longer exhale out, and just notice what your body already knows right now. So I want to start with a story pattern I see over and over in midlife women. Maybe you've been in a job that looked great on paper, but for years there was a quiet heaviness in your chest every Sunday night. The checklist said you should stay, good salary, benefits, identity, but something in you kept whispering, this is draining the life out of me. I can't go on like this much longer. When you finally left, maybe because you chose to, were let go, or because burnout forced the issue, you look back and think, wow, what took me so long? My body knew long before my mind caught up. Or maybe it's a relationship, the little wince you feel every time someone makes a dismissive comment about them, an underlying sense of tension even when nothing is actually going on, or that feeling of blah or disconnection whenever you spend time together. Or maybe it's the way your shoulders creep up or you feel a knot in your stomach when their name appears on your phone. On the surface, you tell yourself, it's fine, it's not that bad, it's better than being alone. But your stomach and your breath tell a different story. Years later, you may realize I was overriding myself the entire time. Why did I wait so long? Intuition is that quiet, repeated knowing that you often can't explain in words at first, but you feel it in your body, your heart, and your gut. And in this mid-season of life, when your roles are shifting and you're being invited into a more authentic version of yourself, learning to hear and trust that quiet knowing isn't a luxury, it's a compass. So let's ground intuition in science for a moment, because many of us were taught to treat it as unreliable or just that woo-woo stuff. From a neuroscience perspective, intuition is your brain and body doing rapid, pattern-based processing below conscious awareness. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for patterns, facial expressions, tones of voice, body sensations, environmental cues, and your past experiences, and then generating a fast summary, a pull toward, a pull away, a sense of not this, or a surprising feeling of yes. Research describe it as being faster than deliberate reasoning. It's based on real information, stored memories, emotional learning, sensory cues, even if you can't articulate the reasoning yet. And it also often shows up as bodily sensations, a tight throat, fluttery belly, a lightness in the chest, a sense of expansion or contraction. There's also growing evidence that women's intuition has some biological support. Studies and reviews suggest women often show stronger integration between emotional and cognitive networks. They may recognize emotional cues more quickly and may rely more on both hemispheres when processing emotional and social information, all of which can contribute to more accessible gut feelings. There's also growing evidence that your heart and gut are a part of your intuition. Work from the HeartMath Institute and others shows that heart rhythms and heart-brain communication can reflect intuitive responses in milliseconds before our conscious awareness. And the enteric nervous system in the gut sends powerful emotional and instinctive signals up to the brain via the vagus nerve. So when you feel something in your chest or your gut before your mind has words, that's not nothing. That's your body's pattern recognition and lived experience speaking. And let's talk about what intuition is not. Intuition is not magical fortune telling. It's also not a substitute for every kind of analysis. And it's not only for some people. It's actually a natural part of all of us, but it's something that needs to be tended to and used in order to gain access to its full potential. Think of it as an additional channel of information, especially valuable in complex, emotional, or personal decisions, where the spreadsheet alone can't tell you what's right for that deeper part of you connected to your heart and soul's wisdom. So in midlife, intuition often gets louder, not because you suddenly become more mystical, but because you've lived through enough patterns, jobs, relationships, health cycles, to recognize certain dynamics quickly. Your nervous system has a richer library of experience to draw upon. Hormonal changes, caregiving load, and accumulated stress actually reduces your tolerance for misalignment. Your body will flag no's and not right for me more clearly through symptoms, anxiety, or a sense of deep fatigue. Prior seasons may have required more people-pleasing, performing, or pushing through, but in this season, ignoring yourself often costs more than it used to, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Psychology and aging research also suggests that many women in midlife and beyond show increases in wisdom-related traits, better integration of emotion and cognition, more comfort with nuance, and greater appreciation for authenticity. All of that feeds your intuition. Your intuition in this season isn't a brand new voice. It's the part of you that's been quietly observing your whole life and who's finally speaking up with enough force that you can't ignore it anymore. So let's make this a bit more concrete. Here's 3 ways intuition tends to show up in daily life for mid-season women. The first is your body-based no. Maybe you're invited to yet another committee, volunteer task, a friend's event, or a family obligation. Your mind instantly starts listing reasons you should say yes, but your body does something else. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your shoulders lift, or your stomach drops. That is intuitive information. It's your system saying, this will cost more than I have to give right now, even before your mind has argued both sides of it. Then there's the quiet, persistent pull. On the flip side, maybe there's something you keep circling back to, a class, a creative project, a move, a new career, a new hobby, or a relationship change. It might not make logical sense yet, but the idea keeps landing with the soft sense of relief or excitement in your body, even if it's scary. That gentle, recurring pull can be intuition pointing you toward your next chapter. Finally, there's the instant read on personal and social dynamics. You meet someone and instantly feel safe and seen and like you've known them for decades. Or the opposite happens, and you feel like you have to shrink yourself or hide parts of you to be acceptable. You might override it, but your body has already offered its read on the personal and emotional climate. Intuition doesn't guarantee you'll never misread anything or anyone, but paying attention to these patterns over time helps you discern when your body is reacting from old fear or old patterns versus when it's offering a clear this fits or this doesn't. Typically, when it comes to your intuitive responses, very little, if any, explanation follows its suggested directive. So you don't need to go on a 2-week retreat to start working with your intuition. Here's a few gentle experiments you can play with this week. Practice number 1, the 60-second body vote. Once a day, pick a small decision. What to do with an evening, whether to accept an extra commitment, or how to respond to a request. Bring option A to mind and notice your body. What happens in your chest, your throat, your shoulders, your belly? Do you feel more tight, heavy, buzzy, flat, or light and spacious? Then bring option B or not yet to mind and notice again. You're not looking for fireworks. You're just noticing which option feels more constricted and which feels more like space. Often intuition speaks in that difference. If you're not sure, that's okay. Just know that you're building your intuitive muscle. The more you use it, the more you'll trust it and the stronger it becomes. Practice number 2, intuition journaling. You're looking for evidence, not just good vibes. For 1 week, keep a simple intuition log. You can use a written journal or record them as voice notes in your phone. You want to recognize and record the following. First, when did you get a sense about something? Good, bad, or indifferent? And did you follow it or override it? And then what actually happened? Over time, many women notice patterns. I talk myself out of my first instinct, then regret it. Or my body is especially accurate about my capacity, energy, time, emotional space when I take the time to listen and pay attention to it. Or my fear voice is loud when something matters deeply, but underneath there's a quieter knowing that feels different. Seeing it written down or re-listening to your voice notes turns intuition from a vague idea into something you can trust with data from your own life experiences. It's important with this practice that you try to refrain from inserting any type of judgment about your noticing, particularly when you ignored those initial intuitive hints about something and it didn't end up going very well. You want to try to simply observe your intuition in action, even when you hesitate to trust it. This is how you strengthen the muscle. Practice number 3, heart-led intuition reset. Because your heart-brain coherence seems to support clearer perception and intuitive accuracy, you can pair intuition with a short heart practice. When you have a decision that matters, begin by taking a few deep breaths to ground and settle yourself into your space. Next, you want to place a hand over your heart. Breathe a bit more slowly and deeply, imagining your breath flowing in and out through your heart area for about 1 to 2 minutes. Then you want to bring to mind something or someone you genuinely appreciate to help smooth and regulate your heart rhythms. Breathe, focusing on this for 1 to 2 minutes more. From that more regulated state, you can pose your question. What is true for me here? And then notice what arises. An image, a word, a felt sense, a knowing. You could follow up with the question, if I knew what to do next about this situation or this person, what would that be? Trust that a response is coming, either in the moment or throughout the day. Then release your expectations around it to give your intuition space to communicate with you in whatever way best suits the question and your intuitive senses. You're combining your emotional intelligence, nervous system regulation, and intuitive sense rather than asking your intuition to shout over a stressed out body, which rarely works. Intuition versus anxiety and how to tell the difference. So a really common question is, how do I know if this is intuition or just anxiety? Here's a few distinctions. Anxiety tends to be loud, repetitive, future spinning, and global. Everything will go wrong. I can't handle this. Why does this keep happening? It often comes with racing thoughts and physiological arousal and uncomfortable body sensations. Intuition, on the other hand, tends to be quieter, more specific, and less dramatic. Things like, not this person, not right now, or not this timing, or yes, even if I'm scared. It often lands as a single clear sentence, a complete thought, a complete picture, or body sensation, then steps back. So don't expect a long explanation about it or a specific way of receiving it. It will likely just be a succinct and direct response, without judgment. And simple check is after you do a few slow breaths, does the message become clearer and steadier, that's your intuition, or does it scatter into a million what-ifs and frenetic questioning, that's your anxiety? In midlife, with hormonal shifts and stress, anxiety can be louder, which is why supporting your nervous system through healthy eating choices, good sleep, regular breath practice, grounding exercises, and vagus nerve care is such an important foundation for hearing your intuition accurately. As you move into this week, I'd love to invite a few gentle questions for you to ponder. Where in my life have I said I knew it only in hindsight? What were the clues? And what did your body know, or how did it respond back then? And if I treated my intuition as a wise friend, not a fragile fantasy, how would I speak to her differently? And finally, what's one area of my life right now, work, relationships, health, where I'm willing to experiment with listening to my inner yes, no, or not yet a little more closely? You don't have to hand over the steering wheel to intuition overnight. All that's needed is a little more space and openness for it at the table. If this conversation is waking up that part of you that says, I'm ready to stop overriding myself, I'd love to walk with you a little more closely. Keep an eye out in the next few weeks for the release of my premier online course, Rooted Within Intuition, Intention, and Imagination for Mid-Season. It's a gentle, practice-based mini course to help you actually work with these tools in your daily life and go even deeper to further develop and trust your own intuition, intention, and imagination. And if today's conversation helped you feel a little more connected to your own inner knowing, I'd love for you to keep walking with me here on Rooted Insights. Follow, like, and subscribe, and if it feels supportive, share this episode with another mid-season woman who could benefit from these grounded, science-informed, and heart-centered conversations. I'd love to hear from you. What's one small intuition experiment you're willing to try this week? Maybe it's pausing before you say yes, or choosing a quieter option because your body relaxes a little when you imagine it. Share your thoughts below. Your experiment might be exactly what another woman needs to remember, that she's allowed to trust herself too. In our next episode of this 3-part series, we'll dive even deeper into intention, drawing on work like the intention experiment and other research to explore how your focused attention and chosen thoughts can quietly reshape your brain, your energy, and your daily life in this powerful new season. We'll look at how to set intentions that your nervous system can actually support rather than turning them into yet another pressure. Remember, you're not behind. You're in a new season of your life, and your intuition has been walking with you the whole way through. You're allowed to listen now. On next week's episode, we'll move from intuition, your inner compass, into intention, how you quietly aim your energy day after day in ways that either support or slowly drain the life you're trying to build in this second season of life. We're here rooting in together, one whisper, one body cue, one honest yes and no at a time. Until next time on Rooted Insights.